If you have any information pertaining to this case, you may contact Crime Stoppers by telephone at 1-800-333-000 or by email at sapol.crimestoppers@police.sa.gov.au. At about 6:30 a.m. on the 1st of December 1948, the lifeless body of a man was discovered just opposite the crippled children's home on Somerton Beach near Glenelg in Adelaide, South Australia. The body was oddly positioned. His head and shoulders were supported by the seawall, with his legs extended towards the sea and his feet crossed. Though his left arm was straight, his right arm was bent double. The sand around the body was dry and undisturbed. Dr. John Barclay Bennett pronounced him dead at 9:40 a.m. after a brief examination in a police ambulance outside the Royal Adelaide Hospital, and estimated the time of death at around 8 hours prior based on the state of rigor mortis. It appeared as though he died in his sleep. The body was cold, stiff, and dry. The initial post-mortem, performed by Dr. John Matthew Dwyer the morning after the body was found, concluded that the death was unnatural, and the immediate cause of death was heart failure, possibly the result of poisoning. There were 2 peri-mortem abrasions present in the hollows of his right knuckles. The police believed that he had committed suicide as there were no other indications of violence or a struggle. Sir John Cleland, a pathologist who examined his embalmed body in June 1949, was, quote, "quite convinced the death could not have been natural. The poison he suggested was a barbiturate or a soluble hypnotic." The decedent was Caucasian, reportedly of British appearance, and was thought to be between 40 and 50 years old. He stood at about 5 feet 11 inches tall, was in top physical condition, weighing between 165 and 175 pounds, and was clean-shaven, with grey eyes, coarse, wavy, fair, ginger, auburn or mousy-coloured hair that was slightly receding and grey around the temples, minimal chest and leg hair, broad shoulders and a narrow waist, unusually large hands that showed no signs of manual labour, clean fingernails and toenails that seemed to be well cared for, nicotine stains on his fingers, size 8 feet, wedged big and little toes like those of a dancer, or someone who wore shoes with pointed toes, high calf muscles like those of someone who regularly wore high-heeled shoes or danced ballet, a faint scar or boil mark on his upper left arm, 3 small scars inside his left wrist, a curved inch-long scar inside his left elbow. He was slightly sunburnt at the time of his death. His cymba was larger than his cavum, which is an incredibly rare feature affecting only 1 to 2% of the Caucasian population. He had attached earlobes, he was uncircumcised, he had hypodontia of both lateral incisors, and several of the teeth were missing, though there was no evidence of him ever having worn a denture. His last meal was a pasty, eaten about 3 to 4 hours before death. It's not thought that the pasty was the source of poison, and contemporary tests failed to identify any foreign substances in the body. The pathologist found no evidence of a hypodermic needle being used either. He was found wearing clothes of fairly good quality: a grey and brown double-breasted suit jacket of American tailoring, a brown knitted V-neck pullover, a white shirt, an American-style red, white and blue tie, brown trousers, a pair of jockey underpants, brown socks. Inside one of these socks was a single braid of barley grass, and a pair of brown shoes which had the cobbler's number 206B embossed on the inside leather. All the labels had recently been cut out of his clothes. He wasn't carrying any money, and he wasn't wearing a hat, which was unusual for 1948. He probably wasn't local to the area in which he was found, since he was wearing all these layers on a warm day. On his person was an unused second-class rail ticket from Adelaide to Henley Beach that had been issued between 6 a.m. and noon on the 30th of November, a used bus ticket from Adelaide to Somerton, an aluminium American comb, another undescribed comb, a handkerchief, a half-empty packet of juicy fruit chewing gum, a quarter-full box of Bryant & May matches, an Army Club cigarette packet containing 7 Kensington cigarettes, and there was an unlit cigarette behind his ear. An additional half-smoked cigarette was found on the right lapel of his jacket, held in place by his cheek, though his jacket was not burnt, nor was his cheek. There are post-mortem images available. They may be disturbing to some, but are being shown for identification purposes only. If you are sensitive to seeing images of a deceased person, you may want to look away now. And also do be warned that if you do a Google search for this case, these images are very likely the first you'll be greeted with. The post-mortem images have now been replaced. Several people came forward to claim that they had seen the man on the beach the evening before his death on the 30th of November. A man drinking at the Glenelg Hotel on that evening asserted to the police that he had spoken to an individual resembling the deceased man, who claimed that he had shown him a military pension card bearing the name Solomonson. A couple who claimed to have seen him on Somerton Beach at around 7 p.m. said that he was lying in the same position in which he was found. They saw him extend his left arm fully before dropping it limply. Another couple saw him between 7:30 and 8 p.m. They said that he was lying with his back to the sea wall. His legs were stretched straight out, not crossed at the feet as they were when the body was found, and his left arm was also straightened out and resting against the sand. By the time they left, his left leg had been drawn up slightly. They thought it odd that he was not reacting to the mosquitoes around him, but figured that he was either drunk or asleep. Another witness reportedly saw another man, about 50 years old and dressed in a navy suit and a grey hat, who was standing at the top of the stairs leading to the beach, looking down at the seemingly unconscious individual. In 1959, more than a decade later, another witness came forward to claim that they and 3 others had seen a well-dressed man carrying another man on his shoulders along Somerton Beach at around 10 p.m. the night before the body was found. On the 14th of January 1949, a brown suitcase with the luggage label removed was discovered by staff in the cloakroom at the Adelaide railway station. This suitcase had been checked in at around 11 a.m. on the 30th of November 1948. Authorities believe, for several reasons, that this suitcase belonged to the unidentified man. In it was found a size 7 red checkered dressing gown, a pair of well-worn red felt slippers, 4 pairs of underpants, a pair of pyjamas, a tartan patterned scarf, 2 vests, a tie, a sports coat, 2 coat shirts, one yellow in colour, a pair of light brown trousers bearing the dry cleaning marks 1171/7, 4393/7, and 3053/7, with sand in the cuffs and a single 6pence coin in the pockets, 6 handkerchiefs, a towel, a toothbrush and a tube of toothpaste, several shaving items including a razor strop with Kent Street, Sydney embossed in the leather, a jar of shoe polish, a length of wax thread, a lighter, a single brown button, a teaspoon, a glass dish, an electrician's screwdriver, a table knife that had been cut down into a shorter, sharp instrument, a pair of scissors with sharpened blades, a small square of zinc that was used as a sheath for the blades, a stenciling brush, the type used by third officers on merchant ships, 3 safety pins, a soap dish containing a lady's hairpin, several pencils and unused stationery, 9 envelopes, 2 airmail stickers, 2 coat hangers, another tie, this one reading T. Keen, as in Keane, a laundry bag reading Keen, that's the same spelling, and another vest, this one with a tag reading Keen, as in Kean. No one by the name of T. Keen was ever reported missing from any English-speaking country. Police believe that whoever removed the tags from the deceased man's clothes purposely left the tag on his vest, knowing that the man's name was not T. Keen. They also believed, based on the decedent's possessions, that he may have been employed as a station hand. The stitching on the suitcase revealed that it had been manufactured in the United States. Following the discovery of the suitcase, police checked train records. They believe that the man had boarded an overnight train to Adelaide Station from either Melbourne, Sydney or Port Augusta. He would have arrived in Adelaide between 8:30 and 10:30 a.m. The police speculated that he then washed and shaved at the adjacent city baths, a public swimming pool, before returning to the station and purchasing a ticket for the 10:50 a.m. train to Henley Beach, which he then either purposely missed or didn't manage to catch. It is presumed that he boarded the bus to Somerton at 11:15 a.m. after checking his suitcase in. He would have purchased this ticket somewhere between the railway station on North Terrace and the intersection of the West Terrace and South Terrace. It is unknown where he was and what he was doing before he was next sighted on the beach 8 hours later. On the 17th of June 1949, the inquest into his death was carried out and the body was re-examined. The pathologist noted that the man's shoes were very clean for someone who had been walking around all day. Indeed, they looked as though they had been recently polished. This supported the theory that the man's body was dumped on Somerton Beach after death, which would account for the lack of any signs of vomiting and/or convulsions, the expected reactions to poisoning. It was noted early on in the inquest that if the man was poisoned, the poison was likely a glucoside and it was not administered accidentally. Whether the deceased himself or another party administered the poison could not be ascertained. Just before the inquest, a slip of paper reading Tamam Shud was found sewn into the deceased man's fob pocket. Tamam Shud means finished or ended in Persian. This specific slip of paper was thought to have been cut out from a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. I'm sorry if I butchered that pronunciation. Following an appeal, the exact book that the slip had been torn from was located. The man who turned the book into the police stated that someone had tossed it into the backseat of his car around the same time that the unidentified man's body was found. Contemporary reports put the exact date as either a week or two before the body was found or just after the body was found. Inside the back cover of the book, 5 lines of code were written. To this day, the code has not been deciphered. In 1978, a group of cryptographers studied the code, who concluded that the text could have simply been the meaningless product of a disturbed mind. In the back of the book was the phone number of a bank, and a phone number belonging to one Jessica Ellen Thompson, a 27-year-old woman who lived around 400 metres north of where the man's body was located. The police interviewed Thompson, who asserted that she knew nothing of the deceased man. When shown the plaster cast of the man's face, she looked, quote, completely taken aback, to the point of giving the appearance she was about to faint, unquote, then averted her eyes and refused to take another look. It should be noted that though she had told the police she was a married nurse, she wasn't legally married until 1950 and had not completed her final nursing exams due to a pregnancy. One thing she did state truthfully, however, was that she had owned a copy of the Rubaiyat, which she gave to an army lieutenant named Alfred Boxall in 1945. Boxall turned out not to be the unidentified man. He was found alive in Sydney in late July 1949, still in possession of his copy of the Rubaiyat, which was entirely intact. Thompson was interviewed again in 2002 by detective and author Jerry Feltus, who stated that she was acting evasive and seemed as though she didn't wish to talk about this case. Both Feltus and Thompson's own daughter believed that Thompson was perhaps not being truthful when she stated she knew nothing of the decedent. It has been theorized over the years that perhaps Jessica Thompson's son Robin, who was born in 1947 and died in 2009, could have been the biological child of the Somerton Man. Much like the Somerton Man, Robin Thompson's Simba was larger than his cavern, and he had hypodontia. The chance that this is mere coincidence has been calculated as somewhere between 1 in 10 million and 1 in 20 million, given the rarity of these features that are passed down by genetics. Reportedly, Jessica Thompson decided to take Robin to dance lessons in his youth, with him eventually becoming a professional ballet dancer. If you recall, the Somerton Man had features that suggested he too may have been a ballet dancer. DNA testing is likely the only method that can prove or disprove this theory, by comparing the DNA of the Somerton Man with Robin Thompson's living biological daughter. Luckily enough, in October 2019, the Attorney General granted conditional approval to exhume the Somerton Man's body, provided the costs are met by those who apply. Another popular theory is that perhaps he was a spy. His death coincided with the reorganisation of Australian security agencies, and 2 sites nearby to Adelaide would have been of particular interest to spies at this time. Several missing people have been ruled out as being this decedent. A list of these rule-outs will be in the description. Before I bring this video to a close, I would like to thank GrungeKid for suggesting that I cover this case. I admit I was a tad hesitant at first, given its antiquity. If my voice sounds a bit off, it's because I've been ill recently, which is why this video has been a bit delayed. Also, I have recently set up a Twitter account, on which I'll be giving updates as to what videos I'm working on and when I'll upload them. If you want to follow me on there, please feel free. As always, if you believe you have any information that may aid in the identification of this decedent, you are urged to contact Crime Stoppers by telephone at 1-800-333-000 or by email at sapol.crimestoppers@police.sa.gov.au. Thank you very much for giving the case of the Somerton Man a moment of your day.